I think we need one more. Two more. All right.
Well, it's not 4 yet, so almost there.
VJ won't be here. She's in a witness meeting, so.
Okay. Okay.
Thought you were going to say she's in witness protection.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so we do have a quorum.
You want to get started or give, well, why don't we give a minute or two leeway here? People are just hooking up. And you're able to do the roll off the screen? My glasses.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, well, I think we're at 4:01, so I will call the Thursday, November 12th, 2020 Dunn County Criminal Justice Collaborating Council meeting to order. I don't have a gavel, so I thought maybe you should start using that for meetings too. Sarah, again, you're able to get participating members the roll from the names on the screen. You're good on that?
Yes, I do have their role annotated. I can certainly read off who's in attendance if you'd like.
Okay, well, yeah, of course, I can see, and so I think we'll just do that. All right, then, first of all, I guess I'm looking for any for a motion to approve the minutes from our August 13th, 2020 CJCC meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, Chief Atkinson has moved. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Now, as far as discussion, any discussion? I just wanted to say one thing, Sarah. I think on that one page, in my remarks, it was dignity and respect, but I think I'm okay with decency and respect because, you know, it means essentially the same thing. I think the message gets across. So any other discussion on the minutes from August? Okay, then we'll do a voice vote. All those in favor of approving the minutes from August 13th signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, any opposed, same sign? Okay, so none opposed, the minutes are approved. Okay, so we're on number 4, and I have a little spot here to make a few comments because this is my last full CJCC meeting that I will be chairing. My term is up at the end of this year. There'll be another executive committee meeting. And I wanted to thank everybody for all their efforts, all their contributions to the Criminal Justice Collaborating Council over the last few years, especially a little extra special thanks to Sarah and her staff for all that they do to make sure that we keep these meetings going and we're prepared and we have that sort of backup. And I think special thanks also to Chris Corpla, who's going to be our new chair going into 2021. I had higher hopes of going to more meetings, but I know one meeting I went to that Ms. Corpla was chairing with the Stepping Up work group, and I was very impressed early on. You look at a lot of the things that we've done and accomplished, Ms. Corpla has made a big contribution. But again, and that is not to say that, you know, many others have made great contributions over the last couple of years. I think it's disappointing that my term is sort of overshadowed by COVID. It kind of came right in the middle. I think we had our first meeting in January, and then the COVID specter struck. And my, how things have changed. I hadn't even heard of Zoom meetings at that point, and now we're doing court and all sorts of meetings, and even family get-togethers on Zoom. So the world has changed quite a bit, and I don't think it's ever going to really change back entirely, because we're finding some of these tools actually work fairly well. And again, I could go on, and I'm sure that nobody wants me to go on and on, but I think our goal at the beginning of the year was to try to, do what we're doing, continue to do what we're doing, and to continue to nurture and cultivate the culture of collaboration. And I can't help but think back it's about 7 years ago that Judge Stewart retired, and sort of the theme of his outgoing message as a circuit court judge was collaboration. He talked a lot about collaboration. And I noticed in our bylaws, I don't know if that went out to everybody, but Sarah sent me a current copy of our bylaws. And of course, that is our mission. And the one thing that I hope that we do is we continue to cultivate that culture of collaboration. There's been a lot of really good things that have happened through collaboration. For example, with the district attorney's office and law enforcement, and getting it so they have the reports and are able to do these criminal complaints. And this is something that wasn't part of CJCC, but it was part of that culture of collaboration, overcoming some obstacles and having that cooperation. We're now, in many cases within custody defendants, there are criminal complaints filed at the time of the bond hearing and when they make their jail appearance, which is really, it's a huge move forward in terms of meeting our overall responsibilities to uphold the Constitution and the laws of the state. And just one other thing I wanted to mention that we have to remember, and I've said this before, but I think a lot of things are worth saying more than once and often repeated, so that we keep up on those fundamentals. Like in football, we talk about blocking and tackling every week, and you have to go back and work on those fundamentals. But our core values of public safety, fairness, individual liberty, respect for the rights, needs, and concerns of victims of crime, respect for the rule of law, discretion within the parameters established by law, and respecting the discretion of the various key stakeholders, because again, we're in different branches of government, and so it's important for those different branches to work together. And of course, appreciation for differences in perspectives and practices across jurisdictions. Kind of sort of the last thing, as I had mentioned before, I think we have, as a group, we have reached the far side of complexity, and we have learned that it's still very complicated, and you still have to keep working towards, again, keeping that culture alive, and to keep focused on doing the things that we do. And so we still have much to do, and I think we'll be in good hands going forward. I think that I moved to the past chair, right? Immediate past chair or something like that. And still on the CJCC, and my focus this next year, in addition to trying to meet the demands of our caseload, is to have a good transition from 2 judges to 3 judges. So I'm looking forward to that, having a little bit lighter caseload, and maybe a little bit more time, because it has been, I have to tell you that since the COVID hit, these relatively large caseloads have felt very heavy. And but I can't say enough for all the efforts by all you folks to make it work, and Katie and Clerk of Court's office keep us functioning, and all the work on our operating plans. And we've had a lot of extra energy we've had to put into just doing basic stuff. And I can tell you that our court hearings often, every little court hearing is more difficult than they used to be. So with that, again, I want to thank everybody, and it's been a great honor to be a chair from the CJCC. And I look forward to all the good things that are going to happen over the next 2 years. And hopefully before I retire, I'll have a chance to be chair again someday. So, okay. We're going to move now to, we're going to change our agenda order a little bit. We're going to move the action items up next. So we'll go to item number 8, and that is, the consideration of actions to be taken by the council. Our CJCC Executive Committee has nominated District Attorney Andrea Nodoff as the CJCC Vice Chair for the 2021-2022 term. And she has indicated a willingness to serve. And so I guess at this point, we have the nomination. So I think we'll, I mean, do we need a particular motion to confirm that nomination? Is that what we're looking for? Okay, so do we have a motion to confirm District Attorney Nodoff as the incoming vice chair, which means that she would become
I
after?
so moved.
Okay, we had a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we second by Katie Shalley, Clerk of Court. So, all right, do we have any discussion? And Ms. Nodoff, are you still willing to serve?
Sure, I will be happy to watch Chris take the lead and be there if she needs anything. And yeah, I'm happy to help.
Okay, super. Okay, well then, all those in favor of confirming District Attorney Nodoff as our new or incoming vice chair, signify by saying aye.
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 All right, any opposed? Same sign or signal? Okay, hearing none, congratulations. It is official. You are confirmed, Ms. Nodoff, as the incoming vice chair of the CJCC. And thank you again for your willingness to serve. Next, we have confirmation of our citizen members. They serve a one-year term, but there's no limit. There's no term limits for the citizen members. And current citizen members are Shelley Metzger, and she's works in the recovery community, works with Arbor Place, and she's been very active as part of that community and a real key contributor. And also Carrie Acklin, Professor Acklin, Dr. Acklin. I don't know if she used that title when she's on here. Maybe she's watching on YouTube, but I want to make sure I get that right. But she's a professor, I believe, at UW Stout. I know she's at UW Stout, but I don't know exactly what the title is. But she also connects us to that community and has hosted the Criminal Justice Conference. But we didn't have it at Stout here in 2020 because of COVID. But I would like to see those two get another term. And Sarah, do you believe that they're willing to continue?
Yes, they're not joining us today, but they have been participating generally in meetings, and I think they're good assets to our council.
Okay. All right. So is there a motion to confirm the nominations of Ms. Metzger and Ms. Acklin as our citizen members of CJCC?
So moved.
Okay, Judge Smelser moves. And can I get a second?
I'll second that.
All right, Chairman Bartlett seconded the motion. Okay, any discussion on the confirmation of the citizen members? Okay. All right, well then we'll bring it to a vote. There being no discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All right, any opposed? Same sign. Okay, none opposed. So it will be confirmed, the citizen members for 2021. Okay, the next item, letter of support for 2021 reentry grant. And Sarah, do you want to give a little background on that? Would you?
Sure. Dunn County receives a reentry grant through the State Department of Justice. We will be entering the fourth year in 2021 of our grant, the fourth and final year. The grant announcement isn't out yet. Typically it comes out in December that we'll have to renew our plans for funding. But I'm asking if we can have a letter of support from this council with that packet. Typically for state grants, they want to see that there's support with the CJCC.
Okay. And so this is really a request for, again, the approval of the CJCC to do a letter of support. So is there a motion to approve that request?
So moved.
Okay, Chief Atkinson has moved. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Supervisor Jim Tripp, second. I think he was first, but we'll give him a second. Okay. Any discussion on the letter of support? Okay, then we'll just ask for a vote. All those in favor of a letter of support for the 2021 reentry grant signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed, same sign. Okay, it passes. So we'll put that together, and then how would that be addressed, Sarah? It'll just be from CJCC and it signed by the chair?
Yep, that's an action. So I put it in as an action that it was approved on this day to continue the reentry program. The letter of support was approved.
All right.
So this action is essentially the letter.
Okay, now moving on to 8D, and that is there's potential funds out there, and it's phrased as support for community development block grant money. I believe well, I'll tell you what, I know somebody can tell us all about that. So who would like to give us just the background of what that actually is?
All right, maybe I'll start us off and then I'll defer to Eric and Chris to add in additional information. So I'm just going to start by giving a little bit of overview of this opportunity. So through the West Central Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission, there are COVID Federal CARES Act dollars available within our 10-county region. Approximately $3 million are available to cover a 10-county area. The funds must be used to prevent, prepare, or respond to coronavirus to principally benefit the low or moderate income people. There's no match required. And if it was equally distributed across those 10 counties, it'd be about $300,000 available to each county. There's a vast array of different uses that this money can be used for. Some of the examples are renter assistance, food pantry, transitional housing, helping with shelters, drug abuse programs, temporary housing, in home services, and the list just goes on and on. This has been a short notice grant opportunity, and it has a quick turnaround as grant opportunities tend to have. So the deadline for a letter of interest is November 20th, essentially a 2-page application. And then if we're invited to submit a full proposal, that would happen later on, where it would be really that full proposal and work out all the details of what we would be potentially asking for. So now I'm going to turn it over to Chief to chime in and add to our conversation here.
Yeah, I'll keep it quick for everybody's sake. Really, what the grant can do is provide or enhance many of the services that we're already providing here in Dunn County or the city of Menominee, primarily through the CJCC, Health Done Right, Police Department, and then some of our community shareholders like Stepping Stones, Bridge to Hope, and other folks that do the similar type work. And what it does is, yes, it responds to the COVID-19, and it provides funds where we can get people housing, food, shelter, transportation, and overcome obstacles for substance use disorders, children who are endangered, etc. And the more significant a size of a grant that we apply for and covers a broader area, the higher likelihood will be that we will get that grant. So Sarah and I and Kristen are all working together to put this grant together, and it will really enhance the programs we already have in place, and especially allow for us to address some of the problems that COVID-19 has caused, where people cannot access those resources or have lost work or are already struggling to get work. And getting those kinds of services are near impossible due to the pandemic, and this will This will certainly help overcome those barriers while preventing the community spread and then addressing some of our needs, especially with our lower income families and individuals in the community.
Chris, anything that you'd like to add to the conversation?
No, I think it's just a good opportunity for us to knit some pieces together of a bunch of different initiatives that are fairly well fleshed out, but don't have any seed money.
So I would just add that the funding wouldn't be available until next year. And there were other community partners that were looking at these funds, but because of the timeline of the funds, it wasn't prudent to go for at this time. Chris and Eric have been contacting some of our partners to see if they would be willing to submit a letter of support or letter of interest in what we're doing. And it sounds like the Health Done Right Coalition is willing to kind of join in what we're attempting. While this grant isn't particular to the criminal justice population, it's just really available for all low-income folks. It would certainly help the folks we're working with and their families, and those support agencies as well, like Bridge to Hope, Stepping Stones, and the Health Done Right groups. I guess one of the concerns I have is just that this is, it's an area that we've tended not to, I guess we haven't had this opportunity before, I guess, with this regional planning grant. There's a lot of coronavirus money flowing, and it's kind of like seize the opportunity right now. So what we are kind of developing as far as our plan is to really enhance, as Chief mentioned, enhancing what we're already doing, allocating more funds to some temporary housing. We know that Stepping Stones is not going to have their shelter over the winter, so we're going to have just the housing situation is going to become more acute as we move forward. And this COVID situation is also intensifying as we are moving ahead. So we definitely have a lot of needs out there that are unmet, and this funding could help kind of reach some of those, or fill some of those gaps.
Okay, so would this be something that, I mean, I'm just a little unclear on what we would be approving today. Would that be just to support the CJCC or to support these entities, a letter of support or something for entities applying for these monies?
At this point, it would be for us to write that letter of intent for the CJCC as our collaborative body that covers the county. So it's broader than just the city. And then we can include our community partners in what we're asking for. So we were really looking to I guess we would be the ones to ask for the funds, but then we would be, using those funds to work with our community partners and our various programs to enhance them and to get really the money in the hands of some of those providers that really need those services, though that money to provide services to that population. So asking, I guess, for support for us to go ahead and put in that letter of interest. And then if we are asked to further develop our proposal, I'm sure we'll have another meeting of the council in between then we can really highlight the details of what we're working out. But essentially, we're looking to enhance, housing, transportation, and then really allow us to provide some of these virtual, we're going virtual. The more we can support, our officers doing that virtual training, our providers providing some virtual services, just the more access people have in the community as well.
Would there be any possibilities for, something like Zoom rooms in different parts of the county so people could attend court, or I'm just throwing that out there. But actually, we're still, looking at the details. So this is the support to move forward and to come up with a specific, lend the expertise of our great grant writers we have as part of this group to do this. Is that it in a nutshell? Okay. So does that have to be phrased anyway, or are we good with the way that that is on the agenda? Okay, so with that, is there a motion to approve the CJCC supporting and writing a grant to try to get some of this block grant money for the community, the county community?
So moved.
Okay, Chief Atkinson has moved, and do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay.
We're all trying to be so deferential here to each other, but pick between Chris and I, it doesn't matter.
Okay. All right.
You two matter.
Hey, well, we want you on the minutes, you know, so, okay. All right, now, any further discussion now from anybody here as part of the CJCC related to this proposal? Go ahead, Chief.
I would just add this one thing. In the meantime, think of ways as to how in our criminal justice world, how this could improve, excuse me, I lost my train. Think quick about over the next month or so about how the Criminal Justice Collaborating Council and your individual departments could benefit on preventing COVID-19 and that spread. Like where you're talking about rooms throughout the county to keep people separated for court, because that prevents that gathering and such. This grant is so broad and so wide that the key pieces are just what Sarah said, is to prevent that spread of COVID-19, address COVID-19 issues. So if people are looking for spaces to have remote courtrooms or whatnot, just take the next 4 weeks and kind of think about those things. Because when we do submit the basic application and it comes back, we can flesh out those details for those kinds of things. And so it can be things applied to anything as long as it prevents that spread of COVID-19 and addresses low income folks. And that could be like getting jetpacks or internet to areas to attend court remotely, you name it. It is really just that broad. So I'll leave it at that. Just put on your thinking caps of things, of ways to prevent the spread of COVID-19 that can enhance your individual services you're providing throughout the county or the city, if you're a city person like I am.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, we ready to do a vote on this? Okay, all in favor of CJCC supporting this, seeking this grant, signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, any opposed, same sign. Okay, none opposed, it carries. And so 8D carries. Very good. Okay, now we're moving on to 8E. And this is I guess, and I'm sure what we're going to do, and Sharice isn't here. I don't see her on. But Sarah, why don't you give a little background? I'm sure most everybody knows Sharice, but maybe just kind of for purposes of the meeting, kind of lay out some of the things, you know, what Sharice has contributed over the last few years.
You bet. So Sharice Nielsen had Melissa's position prior to Sharice retiring. So she was with the Department of Corrections, a field supervisor here out of the Menominee office. So Sharice was really instrumental from my get-go of starting this position and helping us kind of restructure our CJCC. And she's been an active member, not only just attending meetings, but she's been our chair of our DEC work group and really got that off the ground. She had retired from the DOC, but she continued to fill her role with our DEC work group and really got us to a good position where where, that program's up and running. We've got some training out there. Now Andrea has taken over chair of that because Charisse would like to move on. But I would just like to formally recognize Charisse for what she has given to the CJCC, not only in her professional position, but also on her personal time after she left her role with DOC. So I just appreciate all the contributions that she has made, and I wish her luck. And I'm hoping that this body can just formally kind of recognize her for her service with us.
That's a great idea. If you're looking for a motion, I would definitely make that motion to recognize her, whether that's a certificate, a plaque, or what have you. She's been a great contributor over the years, improving our deck response, actually resuscitating that from basically nowhere. It had started years ago, but then died out as people transitioned out. She brought it back. She has provided training for DEC, provided training for other topics like motivational interviewing and other types of programs. And then to continue to do that and volunteer her time, not only was she a good professional for the DOC, but then she also continued to be a great community volunteer for us. It would be a shame not to recognize her. I would make the motion to support it.
Okay, do we have a second for Chief's motion?
I'll second.
Okay, second by Ms. Biskin. And so any further discussion? And again, we'll probably get into the specifics later, but I think it's a good idea, a plaque or a certificate, something that's, token of our appreciation. But I think those things can be very important, have recognition for that sort of contribution. Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay. Ayes have it. I think everybody was an aye. So any opposed? No, none. Okay, super. Okay, well then we're going to move back then to the staff report. Go ahead, Sarah, and I'll mute myself. I'm pretty good at not unmuting, because we run court and I never mute myself. But when I'm attending meetings, I forget that I'm muted. So I have to get a little bit more practice at attending some other people's meetings. So with that, go ahead.
All right, staff report. So the first thing I'd like to update is our grants. So we have received our TAD grant for 2021. So that's the treatment alternatives and diversion. So that has been approved. We haven't quite got the paperwork for Dave to sign, but that'll be coming here shortly. The reentry grant, as I mentioned, we will be entering the fourth year of that grant in 2021. And we are looking to make a shift towards possibly more housing support with that reentry, but that's a fixed amount of $80,000. Most of the funding goes towards our peer specialists that are out there, which are really important, actually, connecting people when they're out in the community. But we will be having that non-competitive grant open up here pretty soon. And then the latest grant that we looked at was the DOJ had the emergency COVID funding, and we did receive that grant. So we got $58,000. And that's going towards our courtroom upgrade project, which was already kind of underway. So we hope to have that completed by the end of the year. Are we still on target with that? That's fantastic. Yeah, so that really outfits our courtrooms with the technology we need to do these virtual hearings. And it supports really all of our programs, all of us that are ever enter the courtroom, whether it's virtually or physically. Next update, I'd like to just do on the state front. So the Wisconsin Counties Association, I'm still participating in their justice and public safety meetings. So those are typically twice a year. So that really just trying to, we just met last month. They were just trying to get a good read on, you know, the election, I guess, and what was going to be shifting and changing. A lot was up in the air. And then we had a budget update from the state and heard from some state representatives. On the state CJCC front, so I participate in the TAD work group. So we are looking at the diversion standards and trying to take it from draft form to final form for all those different diversion programs out there. So there's already state standards with treatment courts, but there's not for diversions. It's just in draft form. So that group is really looking at the diversion programs across the board and how we can support those, you know, just with more information. So I was able to present to them on our precharge diversion program, our TOP program, and our treatment court program. So just appreciate them being willing to hear from us. And then on the federal front, so I am still participating in NACO Justice and Public Safety meetings, and they just started a new subcommittee, a courts and corrections subcommittee that's really looking more at diversion programs overall, looking at what's going on in the jail as far as who's held pretrial, and really trying to advocate for you know, those federal legislations like Medicare to get rid of that exclusion if somebody's in a jail facility. So that group just got started, just kicked off last month, and there'll be another meeting here shortly. So that group again is just focused on really identifying best practices and promoting best practices and really sharing that across counties, because there's a lot of innovations out there. And then I think at this point, I will stop my staff report unless there's any questions. Okay.
Are there any questions? Okay, thank you, Sarah. All right, then the next item, the CJCC program recidivism project presentation.
Okay, I am going to share my screen here. And see, can you see it?
Nope.
No, okay. Because it looks like I don't have the share on. All right. Let's see, I gotta do this and then share. Okay, now do you see it?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so this
And we don't have all that shaking like we have on the from the ceiling in the multi-purpose room.
right, yeah, sitting on a book here. I'm just gonna make it a little bit smaller. Okay, so this has, and Katie, feel free to jump in anytime you want to. But this has been a major undertaking of our data work group for the good portion of this year. This is one of our goals that we had set at the beginning of the year to really look at program recidivism. Now, this is just really that first report. We've got a lot more work to do when we're talking about comparisons. When we're talking about really each year, we're going to have a different group of people that we can look up to see if they've come back into our criminal justice system. So this has been a collaborative work group. This is probably one of the, one of our bigger work groups as well, where we've got all the major agencies participating. Plus, when these folks go back to their offices, they're asking for data from their colleagues as well. So, this has a list of names that who's participated, but we've got a lot more people that have contributed to this report. This is I'm just doing the presentation report. We are going to do a written companion document, and we're going to be reviewing that at our communications work group on Monday, and hope to publish this here shortly. But we're going to hit the highlights of our recidivism project. So I guess to start off, I want to define what recidivism, how we've measured it. We really measured it as a new charge or a new conviction post-program. And we looked at 1-year post-program, 3-year post-program, and 5-year post-program. We really wanted to, it's hard to measure, because even if somebody just has a charge and they're not convicted, there's still resources that we're putting out as a criminal justice system towards that individual. So we wanted to really to say, did they come back into our system at all? So this is really just looking at new charge or new conviction. But we're going to start with the pre-charge diversion program. So this program is our first-time offender program. So it's essentially for those lower level criminal offenses. Folks don't necessarily have to be identified as low risk because we have a kind of a younger adult population. A lot of folks reach that medium risk when we're looking at our proxy, but that's just a screener. But this is just kind of those lower level crimes that come in. What we ask for folks to do is to watch a criminal justice video that we had put together several years ago on the implications of a criminal record. They have to do a thinking report. They have to remain crime-free, and then there could be additional requirements, like if they owe restitution, there could be that they have to complete community service or some other kind of lower level requirement. But what we had found with this program, so this program first goes back to 2016. We've got a completion rate of 75%. So of the 331 discharges that we've had from 2016 through 2019, we had 247 graduates. So that's a huge slice of people that were really off-ramping from our criminal justice system really early on. This program, law enforcement can initiate that diversion, or the district attorney's office can initiate that diversion. So if we catch it in time, it doesn't even get reported to that clerk of court. It doesn't even get into the CCAP court record system. And those cases are really held in the DA's office. They're monitored by our deferred prosecution coordinator. And then if they complete those requirements within the period of time that we're asking them to do so, then their charges are not filed. So there's a huge incentive, especially for those first-time offenders, to really learn from their mistake and get out of the criminal justice system. And that was kind of the theory going into it. And I think it's panned out. When we look at our success rate, over 92% of the graduates had no new charges 1 year post-program. That's a phenomenal rate. So we had 189 out of 205 graduates that never have come back into our criminal justice system in the state of Wisconsin anyways. When we look at that 3-year point in time, it's still at an 87% success rate. So the numbers are fewer that have reached that 3 years post-program, but we still see the majority of people are not coming back into our criminal justice system. So the inverse of success rate really is recidivism rate. So it's 8% for the 1 year post program for a charge or conviction, and then 13% at that 3 year point. Any questions or comments on the pre-charge diversion before we move on?
Sarah, this
Yep.
is Jim Tripp. Do we have any statistics prior to the pre-diversion program that we could compare to? These are pretty good success rates. Do we have anything to compare the success rate prior to the program, after the program?
I don't think so. And Andrea, certainly jump in here if you think we do. A lot of diversion was done informally prior to this, to getting to a deferred prosecution coordinator up and running. So, you know, diversions were being done. It just wasn't necessarily being tracked and monitored and then reviewed for recidivism.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. These are our real low level offenses. So if individuals don't participate, you know, I'm sort of speaking from what happened before, but I would think we would amend them to an ordinance as opposed to a criminal charge. So, but that does have a, you know, a record that's, it's non-criminal, but it's on CCAP. So I don't think that there's any pre-data for pre-charging. You know, certainly before the office did the pre-charge, we did deferred agreements, but they were post-charge, or there would at least be a filing on CCAP. So I don't believe there's any pre-program data that would be available.
If I can follow up, without data, is there any gut feeling or anecdotal evidence to indicate that the recidivism rate has decreased in any significant way with the institution of the pre-charge diversion program?
I mean, my gut feeling would say yes, because it has that educational component that talks about, I mean, these are our young kids. They're, you know, they're making dumb decisions that I think the educational video is hopefully that wake up call, as well as the shock of I got, you know, a charge or I was arrested. And so I think educating those participants about the lifelong impacts of those decisions is certainly helpful. I don't know if I can say there's data to say that, but I think the data supports that it is helping to say this is a wake-up call and you better stop making those decisions and be grateful for this opportunity.
Thank you, and I appreciate that, and I tend to agree that what you say is significant. I'm going to ask one more question though. Are there other counties that are similar enough to us so that we could compare our recidivism rate with theirs, those counties that don't have similar diversion programs? You see where I'm going with this?
Yes, so that's part of the struggle. A lot of these programs are so new that there's less to compare them to. But there are some counties in the state that have started pre-charge diversion programs. I don't know if they have the data, but that's something that being part of that state work group, I've got some results from their diversion programs as well, but how we can kind of network and connect and start to compare outcomes. All counties have a little different program. We know that Chippewa and Eau Claire have similar pre-charge diversion programs, different lengths of time. But you know, their initial results were also very positive, that a lot of these folks don't really come back into the criminal justice system, and they don't have that criminal record following them. And we know that through research that when we put a low level or low risk individual into jail or affiliated with more criminal minded people, they become worse. So that's where, with the further we get them in the criminal justice system, the further they're hanging out with other criminals and become essentially a better criminal, or start to personally identify themselves as, you know, well, I'm an offender. I'm just going to kind of take over that persona and then kind of dig into it more. So I think this is a goal for us to do each year, to really look at the recidivism and success rate. And part of the next step is that comparison group, right? How can we compare it to other counties or other places that have programs, so we can report back to this group. This, you know, overall, I would say this program is a good investment, because they're getting off of our criminal justice interstate pretty early. We save more money down the road because there's just less contact, less they're coming into our criminal justice system. On the flip side, in Katie's office, probably, I know Clara, Katie's predecessor, was kind of cued in that we're getting less fines and fees coming in through the clerk of court's office with some of these lower level crimes as well, because typically they would be a fine or an ordinance violation. But so we are kind of missing out in a not I wouldn't say it's been a whole lot of money, but we are not collecting that money. But what people are doing is they're learning from this mistake and they're moving on and they're not coming back. So we end up saving a lot more money down the road by them not coming back through our doors.
Thank you. I appreciate all this. And don't get me wrong, I'm all on board with this, but what I'm trying to do is prepare myself to answer questions from the Get Tough on Crime folks who have to be persuaded that these programs not only are worth the time and effort, but ultimately work. So show me the numbers is what they're going to ask me. And it would, you know, the success, as you've indicated in this current slide, is significant. But if somebody asks me, how does that compare to prior or to other counties that don't have diversion programs, it'd be nice to have some data to support our gut feeling and my belief that what you've said just now is true. So anyway, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I would just add, I think that the sales point, stating it that way maybe isn't the right way to do it, but the sales point in this particular group is that every single one of these people, as Sarah said, took an early exit out of the system, and every single point that they touch in the system costs money. So I think this group, more than anything else, because we know that a fair number of, insignificant or lesser significant offenders are low risk and not likely to reoffend anyway. But what we can quantify, and we've done some work on quantifying cost, is that these are folks that aren't touching the district attorney's office repeatedly. They're not touching the courtroom repeatedly. They don't need a public defender. They don't need, all these different pieces that all come with a cost attached. So I really think for these early programs, the benefit is we move them off of the freeway, and we save all of the people that touch their lives along the way, the cost of that programming.
Yeah, I would even add in a couple other things for justification. If you're looking for raw data numbers, you can take a look at uniform crime reports throughout the county, the city, and many of those have declined over the years. And a lot that correlate with your precharge diversion and other efforts that are made to get people away from the system. So if people are saying you have to get tough on crime and focus on the punishment, our crime reports or crime statistics, now we do incident-based crime reporting, it demonstrates that actually the diversion has helped reduce crime. The other part of it too is not only are you saving time down the road of these people interacting with medium and high risk type criminals, but you're allowing for current criminal justice resources or human services resources to focus in on those medium and high risk offenders, and in particularly the high risk offenders that really need those kinds of services, that maybe that incarceration, or if you're talking about some of the medium risk folks, substance use disorders, mental health treatment, you're seeing how that has had that impact, and being able to focus those folks towards those, that also leads to reducing of crime, or the reduction of crime. And thus the economic impact is tremendous, not just what you're spending on corrections or adding more police or what have you, but you're talking just a pure economic impact on what crime does to neighborhoods, to school districts, to businesses and such. So I would say to the Get Tough on crime folks, it seems like an easy solution to lock them up. However, though, that does not always have the desired outcomes at the end of the day, because you can't keep people locked up forever. Utilizing things like the precharge diversion that are evidence-based actually saves money, improves quality of life, and will have an economic impact in the positive for Dunn County. That I would throw that out towards people. And then if they're still on that kind of get tough on crime, reach out to the various criminal justice partners and have us explain them. We're public servants. We're there to help you and help those people that have questions.
I would add, I think the data supports not that we're being soft on crime, but that we're being smart on crime.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
I would just share that the state recently did a TAD report for recidivism and for cost analysis. The cost benefit ratio of all diversion programs, so this would be pre-charge and post-charge, that TAD funds, it saves $8.68 for every dollar invested. So, I mean, that's an average across the state. But that's a pretty significant savings when you think about it. And then just of all the benefits that we've already spoke of. All right, in the interest of time, I'm going to go on to our next slide. So this is of the treatment opportunity program. So this is our post-charge diversion program that was started in 2017 with TAD funds. The length of the program can vary from 6 to 9 to 12 months, even up to 24 months, really at the discretion of the DA's office. It usually comes in the form of a deferred prosecution agreement that gets filed with the court, that folks agree to treatment, case management, and drug testing during the duration of their agreement. So the completion rate for this program, we're at 62%, with it just starting in 2017. The numbers aren't as large, but we had 53 of 85 complete the program. When we're looking at success rate, of those that have reached 1 year post-program, 74% had no new charges. So that's, our numbers are small here, so you kind of have to take it with a grain of salt. At the end of 2020, we'll be able to crunch all of our 2019 graduates. But we're at 74% success rate there, with 26% of the graduates having a new charge or conviction 1 year post-program. So 7 of those 27 had new charges. When I look at our state report, they are reporting that the diversion programs that they studied in the state that are TAD funded, within 1 year, they saw a 23.4% recidivism rate within 1 year. So we're right on par with the state there on that success rate. And then also the recidivism rate. So that one's just kind of right on par. But as we get more people that have graduated, more people that are 1 year, 3 year post program, we'll be able to crunch those numbers. So we don't have anybody that's 3 years post program just based on the duration of the program. But again, this is another opportunity. So people have that criminal record. It's, you know, it gets in the CCAP system. But people have an opportunity that if they do their treatment, they do their case management visits, and they stay crime-free, drug-free, then their charges are dismissed or reduced. So there's a big incentive to really follow through. And what we typically see that people either sink or swim in this program. They either do well and move on, or their substance use is to the level that they need more accountability and kind of work their way up to treatment court.
And I would just add that for this group and the next group, we have spent some time in our data work group talking about who the comparables are to these participants. So in this particular case, we would know, for instance, who would have potentially been eligible for this program but elected not to participate, or just different measures that we've talked about and haven't settled in on yet because we're just finishing this portion of the project, but that is our next step, as Sarah indicated, to look at what the comparable group, the control group, if you will, would look like.
That's right. All right, and then moving to treatment court. So this is our highest risk, highest need offenders that we encounter. These are the ones that are cycling through, frequent flyers, we might call them, that are repeatedly, going through our jail, coming back out, getting a new charge, just going around and around. With all, the top program and treatment program, there needs to be a substance use a disorder as part of kind of that driver as far as why they're connected with crime. But this program is our oldest program. It's probably the most studied program of criminal justice that's out there. It's a tough program to get through. Like I said, these are our highest risk, highest need folks. So our completion rate's 51%. National completion rate's about 59%. So we are a little bit lower as far as those that get through the program. Typically, it's at least a year and a half to 2 years for somebody to get through the program. So again, our numbers are small when we're looking at success rate and recidivism rate. So it's hard to really extrapolate a whole lot from such a small group. But we see that for our success rate, 74% of graduates do not have a new charge or conviction with 1 year post-program. And that's really huge. So it's not only during the duration of them being in the program, but also 1 year post-program that folks are employed, they're drug-free, they're taking care of their kids, they're paying taxes, they're doing all those things that we want a good citizen to do. They get to practice that while they're in the program. And then, after the program's done, we hope they really sustain those behaviors. And we see that a good portion do for up to, a year. The rate starts to go down once we get to that 3 year, dip to 70%. And then at 5 years, about 57% do not come back through. And again, these numbers are so small that you just really have to be careful, with that. So again, these are the folks that are the most complex. They are the most expensive. They are using, really our criminal justice system repeatedly to the point that it is a major success to have any of these folks kind of normalize their behavior. But these are probably this is a more expensive program. The state reports that through TAD funded treatment court programs, that for every dollar spent, that we save $4.17 in the criminal justice system. So again, that's just our dollars and cents that we're saving on them by them not coming back through again. But there's a lot of other gains that people make in their lives and improve the quality of life, reduce the crime that we see in our community. Often, these are the people that folks know. So when we see them again, it's like, oh, here they come again. But the majority of people are not coming back through. And I think that's an important message that we want to send. And as we continue to work the data, continue to update this every year and really look for that comparison group, I think that'll help just reassure that we really are being smart on crime and really using our limited resources wisely. So then those that really are a danger to our community, those higher risk people, that we can really hold them accountable. And when we're talking about long-term outcomes, substance use disorders do not go away because somebody is locked up in jail or prison. They reemerge once they're released. So treatment is really important if we're wanting to prevent that cycling coming back through our criminal justice system. And that's just with those that substance use disorder. When we're talking about mental health disorders, the same thing holds true as well. So any questions on this information? And I'm going to
Sarah?
stop my share. Yes.
Yeah, Sarah, just one thing, when you look at that data, especially like for the treatment court, the adult treatment court, one thing we've had a lot of discussions over the years is once we run them through the treatment court program, what kind of support, or is there any, and have we developed those things that we could do once they've completed treatment court that might sustain a little bit of that success rate you have that first year in the second year, rather than see the drop off, after that 5 year. Is there somehow that we need to have something that, can be put in play that probably would help them? We talked about alumni groups and different things that maybe we got to tweak that a little bit so we get a little bit better staying power.
Absolutely.
I'm going to volunteer. First of all, I think this is exactly what CJCC needs to be doing, the look that needs to be giving to justify what we're doing, to show as Supervisor Tripp pointed out, to show that these programs are worthwhile, that they save money. I'll encourage us to put into these reports, you made mention, Sarah, that for every dollar spent on our top program, our treatment court rather, that we save $4. I think that's important. That resonates and that needs to be highlighted. I'll also allude back to something that Supervisor Tripp said earlier. If we can identify in Wisconsin a county of comparable size that does not have one or more of these programs, but has the statistics in terms of, say, on the precharge, the numbers that they take in and the recidivism they see versus what we take in and see as a percentage, that comparison also helps justify what we're doing. In my experience, people are willing to support these kinds of programs. They're willing to spend these kinds of monies if they can see it saves us money, if they can see that it is a worthwhile investment. So the more we can do to highlight those elements, I think the better off we are.
I agree, but I'd also be interested in what each program costs. So if we're saying we're saving so much, how much are we spending to get those savings, to see if it is efficient? Because I mean, it does get discouraging when we see the repeats in treatment court, because we've spent a year and a half of our time and how many different resources, and then, they're back. And I understand it's a disease, but that would be helpful too, to say it's, for me, that it's really worthwhile.
Another way, a big picture way to look at it is, look at the jail. If we had to build on or to our jail, and I don't know that we have a real good study for how what the recidivism rate is for people that are just jailed in response to their behavior. So it's a complicated issue, but that big picture, think about that. I mean, we built this jail and it's still suiting our needs, 20 years later. And I think, especially now when we have COVID, not having a big jail population is a good thing also, because not only do you have the jail, but you have responsible for, the health costs of people that are in jail. So you have someone in jail has a heart attack, for example, it's going to be a very expensive thing for the county if they have to care for that person continuing in jail. Just something I want to throw in there. I know we're getting late here. We're overtime, so I won't say anything else.
Okay, well, that's all for the recidivism presentation. Like I mentioned, we are working on a document that we're going to be sending out. So I'll take all of this feedback and we'll incorporate it into our written document because we certainly want it to be in the hands of people that it makes sense and they can use it and understand it in a way that's plain language. So thank you.
Okay, so we have these consideration of work group reports. There were written work group reports submitted, and do you see any need to go through those at our meeting today? And those will be available if the public, anyone wanted to look at them. They're records that we've generated. But is there any highlights? Anybody want to hit on those, or anybody have any guidance on what we can do here? Maybe to just go with the written reports as opposed to going through all the work group reports.
Yeah, maybe we'll just address any questions that folks would have from reading the written reports.
I would just add a comment to the communication work group, which spearheaded the OWI forum the other night. And I would just looked while we were sitting here, and on the Facebook view, there have been, now granted, this doesn't tell you that somebody sat down and watched the entire presentation, but there were 1,900 hits of views of that. That someone at least was interested enough to click on it to see whether it was worth continuing their viewing.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. And our communications work group is going to look at the data on Monday as well, just to see where we're at. But yeah, the preliminary data was about 40 people or so on average watching us live, and then about 17 or 1900 actually clicked on the link. So not as many live folks, but certainly the message got out there. And some of the feedback was kind of anecdotal feedback. Was it was different than they expected. They thought they were going to be, don't drink and drive or else. But it was just more of informative, and kind of sounded like we were doing it from a point that we wanted to really deter, prevent, and help people really make that safe choice. So I think we've accomplished our mission with that OWI forum. So thank you for everyone that participated.
And thank all of those that helped make it happen. That was, it's interesting how we end up connecting or touching a lot of people. We wouldn't want to have that many people in a room right now, right? So I kind of have a song in my mind, where I think it was. Who was it there? The Living in the Material World, but just think of that tune now. Think of it living in a virtual world, and we're able to touch quite a few people. So, okay. Anything else? Then any other discussion about the work group reports, or anybody that would like to mention something here during our meeting? Okay.
All I would say is Dave Bartlett sitting in his dark vehicle makes him look a little frightening.
Dark out. So, all right. Well, thank you again. Thank you for, again, all that you do and contribute and in this mission that's very important to the public. There's so much more to say. I kind of miss out on the fact that I haven't been able to give, speeches and things like that. So I was looking forward to that. Maybe my next time around someday. So with that, our next meeting date is Thursday, January 14, 2020 at 4 p.m. And with that, I'll adjourn the meeting. All right. So we're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.